It looks like the individual mandate, I think, is dead. Utter chaos now rules. That's the problem. Let's talk. We have Avik Roy, senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, and health policy expert Grace Marie Turner, president of the Galen Institute. Good evening to both of you. Avik, your headline on the Forbes was utter chaos. What do you mean by that?
It is utter chaos because the effect of this rule is that 6 million people who've had their plans canceled by Obamacare now qualify for a, quote, hardship exemption because the plans that they can shop for under Obamacare are, quote, unaffordable, unquote. So what that means is that all those people are not going to have to sign up for Obamacare-based insurance, which means that a lot of healthy people are going to drop out of the market, which is going to drive up the cost for all the other people who stay in the pool and creates this adverse selection problem that a lot of the insurers and health policy analysts have been worrying about for a long time.
Avik, on this catastrophic insurance that the so-called hardship exemption he's allowing, isn't this what he was calling a few weeks ago subpar? What all his followers were saying was absolutely wrong, and that's why they couldn't do it?
That's true, but an important thing to understand, too, is that Obamacare catastrophic plans aren't like normal catastrophic plans, because normal catastrophic plans are inexpensive. But Obamacare catastrophic plans are so heavily regulated, they still have to cover your drug addiction therapy and your maternity benefits and all that stuff. So as a result, the catastrophic plans under Obamacare are not actually that much cheaper than the bronze plans in the exchanges. In some cases, they're even more expensive, and you can't get subsidized coverage through the catastrophic plan.
Well,
so
let me just ask now. Okay, I didn't know this. Grace Marie, I'm going to be within 1 second. Hang on a second. You're saying these people who got this exemption today, they have to buy the catastrophic plan on the Obamacare exchange? They can't just go to an insurance company and get the best deal?
Well, they're both the same because Obamacare regulates what an insurance plan can be, whether inside or outside the exchange. So even if you shop outside the exchange, the costs are still going to be higher.
All right. Grace Marie, I don't understand how you can keep this exemption for the cancellation, the people with cancellation notices, and the others don't have that exempt. They don't have that. They can't do the catastrophic plan. They can't make a choice. How can you have one without the other? And I'm really leading up to this point. Is the whole individual mandate just, going down the drain?
Well, the president is systematically dismantling his own law, first with the employer mandate and now with this. And you're absolutely right. And Larry, you mentioned earlier the unfairness. So here now you have a situation where somebody who had health insurance last year that they liked, it was canceled because it didn't comply with Obamacare. They now can get a hardship exemption, but somebody who was uninsured, couldn't afford health insurance last year, isn't exempt. I mean, it's just really, the unfairness of this is crazy.
How do the insurance companies parse through this? Realistic question. They got so many problems as it is. I'm going to review that in a minute. But how in the heck can the insurance companies parse through this in a matter of days, Grace Marie? That's what we're looking at.
And Larry, remember, one of the things that they're supposed to do is keep administrative costs low, down to 15 or 20%, and they're adding enormous paperwork burdens and administrative burdens, having to put new people on call centers, redesign websites, redesign forms, and they're having to, at the same time, to try to figure out how are they going to price policies in a way that keeps the premiums as low as possible for people who really need coverage while still complying with this long list of Obamacare mandates that they have to include in these policies. So they really are beside themselves in trying to figure out how they can comply with the law that the president changes every week.
For them, it's an administrative nightmare. It's also a judgment nightmare. But Avik, I don't want to lose sight of some of the earlier changes, because the orders, they weren't mandates, but it sounded like marching orders coming down from the White House and HHS. These insurance companies have to cover people partial payment, no payment, no official enrollment because the back-end stuff has never been solved, no verification of their insurance and their income. There's already very little, if not any, personal security. In other words, the bulk of this whole thing has suddenly shifted to the insurance companies, who probably are going to get blamed when it blows up in the next couple of weeks.
Larry, you raise a really important point. You were having the discussion before about the so-called million people who've signed up for coverage on these exchanges. Here's the key thing. You're not enrolled for health coverage. You don't actually have coverage under the plan unless you've paid the premium and the insurers received your payment. And as of 3 weeks ago, the Obama administration hadn't even built the IT systems to actually pay the insurers. So we don't actually know how many people are actually enrolled. It's probably about 10% based on our sources, as to 10% of the people who've actually signed up or selected a marketplace plan, as the government's talking about, have actually paid. So these million figures, it's not really enrollments. It's more like 100,000 people are enrolled, and 900,000 people have chosen a plan, but may not actually get covered because of paperwork issues.
Just to wind this up, look, as I understood it, in the last week or two, HHS is telling the big insurance companies, we want you to cover them. We want you to cover these people, even though they may not be enrolled, even though they may have only had a partial payment, even though they may have had no payment at all. The White House is saying we want you to cover them, and somehow we'll make it up to you. Now, I don't see how you do that. I don't see how you do that.
The insurers are pulling their hair out because they're going to have to take a bath financially as these premiums go up, or the expenditures on the sicker and older people are higher because the healthy people are dropping out because they now have an exemption under this new rule.
Right, and Grace Marie, that's a great final point. The demographics here are not going the way the insurance companies or anybody want them to go. That's going to that's a bankruptcy issue is what that is.
Absolutely, and they've just created another exit ramp for the very people that they are desperately trying to get to enroll in Obamacare. Pajama Boy, for example, now all he has to do is say that he can't afford insurance on the marketplace, and off he goes. Why should he pay that premium at the end of the month? Just at the point that people are being told you have to pay your premiums, now they're saying, oh, well, here's an exemption. You don't actually have to do this after all. Terrible, terrible. For the pools and for people.
All right, it's a big mess. The whole thing, it's just a big mess. That's all it is.
Avik
Roy, Grace Marie Turner, thank you both very, very much.